Hey there, YouTube, it's Petey Two Figure. I got this Germanium Rangemaster yesterday. I did a video talking about my silicon Rangemaster, which is an NPN. This is a PNP, and what that means is reverse polarity power supply. So the germanium is not bus standard, it's opposite, and it's reversed. And you can get in trouble with that if you're not careful and you don't follow some simple basic electronic principles. And this is one of the reasons why that germanium is just a different ball game. It's a fact of life. So how I approached it, I, I'm building two silicon rangemasters and to start one germanium. So I had gone through my germanium transistors and did some testing, and I'm looking for basically something between 70 HFE and around 115, which is what I ended up in here with low leakage. I had some 1T308Bs, I had some MP16s, Russians, and I think that's what ended up in here. The 308B was a little hotter, so I saved those. And I have much more quantity of the MP16s. Now, R.G. Keen is the name of the guy who wrote the book on a lot of this stuff, and he wrote a wonderful article about building a Rangemaster. He instructs you, instead of putting the resistors in, which biases the transistor. Now, that sounds complicated. All that is, it's the current limiting resistor for the transistor. You don't connect the battery directly to the transistor because you'll blow it. It's too much power. You have these resistors in there to temper it down a little bit and set the range of operation for the transistor. So in these circuits, these parts are more finicky, and between each part, they're way different in specification. Like the newer silicon parts, they're all real close to the same. These old germanium parts, because of the leakage and stuff, they're all over the place. So it's not like a normal pedal building experience where they tell you, oh, these are all the parts, you just build it. When you're building a germanium based effect, you have to compensate significantly for each component. So it's more involved, but it's not anything that can't be figured out with a little care. Now, one of the important things you need to consider, we're talking about current limiting resistors, or the bias, the resistors that set the bias or biasing the transistor. R.G. Keen recommends that you substitute a control or a potentiometer or a pot. You can use a trimmer or a regular pot. It's great to use the 100 turn where it's like you got to keep turning it and it very slowly adjusts itself, because this makes it for you really get in there precise. But I just use regular little trimmers. Regular, they turn from like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock to around to like 4 o'clock. And what you do, you prepare wire. You remove the insulation from two pieces of wire on both sides, and you apply flux, and then you tin them. You apply solder. One wire goes to leg 1, another wire goes to leg 2 and 3. You take the other ends of those wires and you hook them up to your multimeter, set it to, you're going to measure resistance. It's a resistor, variable resistor. And then you set that, you'll turn it until you reach the value of the resistor that's called for to bias the collector or the base or the emitter, whatever it is. And at that point, what I like to do is I'll install a socket, which is where you can just pop a part in and pop it out. It's a little socket guy, like a little cup with a pin on it that you solder in there. So you put those sockets in there, and then on the bottom of the circuit board, you'll solder in the wires that go to the adjuster. So once you've got it all built and on your test bench, you connect your test signal. I have a little oscillator, beep, it does a 1K tone. Put that to the input, put the output to the test amp, and pop your transistor in there, pop the battery in it, make sure it's 9.2 volts. You're going to set your filtering, your capacitor to, like if you have a variable capacitor, set it to where you're going to run it. Because if you adjust that, or if you have a toggle with 3 different caps to get treble, mid-range, or you know, tone shaping options, that will affect the biasing of the circuit. It'll change the numbers on the meter. So you're going to want to set that where you think you're going to run the pedal, you know. The volume knob doesn't matter so much, but I usually set it in the middle or all the way up. At that point, you apply power to the transistors, and then you connect your multimeters to your collector in your base, and you adjust the trim pots so you hit 7.2 volts on the collector, 0.8 volts on the base, and I think it's like 0.2 on the emitter. Don't quote me. But once you've got it biased by you've substituted little potentiometers or trimmers for the resistors, and you shut it off, and you unsolder the wires, and you test each one of those and see where they were set. How much resistance does each leg of this transistor require to get it biased properly? And then you know, okay, well, the stock circuit calls for a 67K biasing resistor for the collector. Well, in my case, it wants to see 4.9K. So there you go. You cut in a 4.9K resistor with closest value. And keep in mind that the partner resist, they all kind of come together to make a soup. So if you're you can wade through it and adjust a little higher over here to bring it up over there on the other side, if you know what I mean. And that's what we did. We ended up with like a 96 ohm on one side, which was 100 ohm, and like a 5.1K, something like that. And you know, it also helps to play with it and listen, bias by ear, and look at the numbers while you're doing it and see what does it sound like with this transistor in there when we get misbiased, when it's low, when it's down at 6 volts instead of 7. Does it sound bad, or does it sound really good? So there's biasing. You can do it by the numbers, or you can do it by ear, you know, and I kind of do a little bit of both in there. But we got this to bias out and hit both of those criterion, where it sounded really good and it also hit the numbers appropriately, although they were significantly not what the stock circuit calls for. So whatever the case may be, it's my first Rangemaster. Now I've built Baldwin Burn buzz arounds. I've built fuzz face, charge pump fuzz faces. I've built what's the one I'm thinking of? Fuzz factories, multiple fuzz it's not like I have never played around with germanium. I have quite a bit. And it's my favorite germanium pedal is a Leica. It's a self-oscillating Sputnik Spaceman Effects Sputnik 2. That's the one. Man, is that an unbelievable sounding germanium fuzz. It really is something special, but it's just, this is my first Rangemaster. And these are more involved building germanium pedal, and it's not recommended for a first build. You want to kind of get your feet wet before you jump into germanium. But this is going to be going, I mean, who knows how what it's going to end up doing. But the intention for this is to augment a digital rig. I'm going to be running this in front of an amp modeler and in the effects loop with some other pedals that I built. I've got the other Silicon Rangemaster and a triple pedal board that I'm going to run in the effects loop of my new XMG30, and that pedal board is a buffered ZVEC show that also has the Rangemaster. It's a 2-for-1 pedal and a 1590 BB, so there's 2 foot switches on it with a master volume, ZVEC show on one side, Silicon Rangemaster on the other with a toggle, and that toggle has 5N, 10N, and 15 nanofarad of capacitance on the input capacitor C1. So this gives you a little bit more option to open it up, meaning the frequency response on the stock Rangemaster is a treble booster, and this opens up a little bit more of the mid-range. That board, it has an EP boost, Echoplex boost, which, man, I love that pedal. It's a silicon. I think it's it's not silicon. It's an op amp, I believe. I built it. I don't remember. But that's my favorite boost pedal. There's just something about it. It's a magical sounding circuit. It's just one of those circuits that, man, if you ever get a chance to, if you need a clean boost and you don't want to subject yourself to the unbelievable pain in the neck that working with germanium transistors is, and trust me, it is. Compared to something like this, where you just build it and it just works and sounds incredible, this is a hassle. But it wasn't that bad. It fired up right on the first try, which it should. We're really careful about what we do. But in the past few years, it was like someone cursed me. It was like somebody put a hex on me or something, because we had so much like goofy, like bad pots, bad switches, everything that could go wrong did. We everything we built, if there would be one part we didn't test, and it would be bad. And it was like, when you go through that 3 years of that, the idea of just making music rather than having to build the stuff becomes appealing. So yeah, I'm not a germanium. I don't carry the torch for germanium, not at all. That's not who I am. But I'm standing here with a Germanium Rangemaster, and if you're interested in that, you can look into what R.G. Keen, his article about replacing the biasing resistors with potentiometers, getting it set up by biasing it using your multimeter, then removing those little adjusters and cutting in resistors. Or you can, they say, oh, you can try to glue them, but they drift, and I don't know. I just didn't want to leave trimmers in there. You certainly can. You certainly can. I just didn't want to do that. As far as C1, the sculpting on this, you can look at how they do it in the Joe Gagan designed this thing called an Easy Face, and he uses a 100 kb pot with a couple of capacitors on each leg 1 and 3 to tune it in between there. You can look at that diagram. I used 4700 picofarad capacitor on leg 1 and a 47 nanofarad capacitor on leg 3. And now those are like, the 4700 picofarad is smaller than the stock, and the 47 nanofarad is larger than the stock. So I went from here to like here on the low and like here on the high. So I got a little bit higher and a lot lower. And that's this knob here. So this Rangemaster has 2 controls. Now, that's just how I chose to build this. You can just as soon build your stock. And as far as going down this road, the next step for me was going to be building the Catlin bred Naga Viper. And that is a fancy name for $175 treble boost pedal that happens to have an NPN silicon transistor. It's a 2N222A. It's a 3 knob affair, being gain, volume, and tone. And people love it. People love the Catlin bred Naga Viper. So I'm gonna have one of those at some point. I've been on this boost thing. There's one other boost, and that is the 29 pedals JFET boost. It's a $400 like uber boutique thing that some guy in LA, some geeky beard guy who hangs out with the harp girl. There's that girl that her boyfriend films her with a harp, and she has like $1,000 like one of those companies that make those Chase Bliss, these incredible music making tools, and she just and they send them to her because she's a girl, you know. But I found out about that 29 pedals JFET boost, and they're selling a PCB for it over at pedalpcb.com. It's a new one. It might already be out. It wasn't out last time I looked, but that's the one that I really want to, because I like JFET stuff, and it's that guy. I watched a little bit of stuff about how he designs his stuff, and I want to try that. Any boost pedal that's over engineered, like the TC Electronics Spark, I'm really interested in trying that. If you take a look at it, it's ridiculous the amount of components that are in it. And as I keep rambling down the road here, I have been getting seduced by the clean boost. That's what I really like now. And stuff like this, where you kick one of these on, and that's quack and spank that you get out of a Stratocaster when it's in the 2 and 4 position, that becomes more defined with this. Those are the pedals that I'm looking for, because a lot of the other overdrive and distortion and boosts, when you turn them on, that goes away. That quacky, spanky thing that you get out of a Strat in the 2 and 4 position, that's where it's at for me right now. That's the road that I'm going down for now. And usually that lasts a couple of years. It can last a long time. I mean, I was stuck with the Big Muff for way longer than I care to admit it. it's funny because I knew all about this when I was a kid. I knew all about this pedal. I've known, like, I bring this up to people and they're like, Rangemaster? Never heard of that. It's like, well, they didn't have them over here. They only had them in England. But everybody that you listen to, they all used it. All of them. Iommi, Clapton, Billy Gibbons, the Queen guy, Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, all of them. They all used a Rangemaster. Page was a tone bender guy, which, I mean, when you come down to it, the tone bender, it had more gritty gain, and I'm not looking for that with this. I'm looking for more of a clean boost, you know. And I mean, it depends on what you're doing. If you're running like these are designed to be slamming into a tube amp. So this is a little different. This isn't the NYC punk rock or the FX69 grunge. This is a little bit different. All right, you guys take care of yourselves. I did another video on this yesterday where I talk all about this stuff. I'm sorry for Rangemaster. There's going to be more on this topic, and I don't so much set up an amp and play little snippets from all of your classic rock hits for you because I can't. I can't. I'm not a good guitar player at all. I'm a horrible guitar player. That being said, I write my own music, which I think is interesting and entertaining. So check some of that out. If you want to hear what it sounds like when a guy who stuck his hand under a lawnmower and is missing 2 fingertips sounds like when he tries to play a 6-string guitar, you can check out some of my music. There's some playlists up there. You can check out some of the recordings I've done. Or any of the live stuff. We play live. We do these remote jams, me and my wife. So there's plenty of evidence of what that sounds like. And it's interesting because my whole life I played with way too much gain. And now I've slowly been putting on the brakes on that stuff, and now I'm actually really doing it. I'm diving into the clean boost. So it'll be interesting to see how long that lasts till I'm looking into a Oco Diablo or Risa Fratsits. All right, you guys take care of yourselves. Hug your pets. And peace.